Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now what we're going to do, I promised you kind of repair videos and stuff like that. This is a tablet. I know it's maybe got nothing specifically to do with automotive side of things, but we have to replace the charging point on this because it's completely destroyed. But this will give you an idea of also soldering techniques and stuff like that, which you can relate to circuit boards on cars, ECUs, control modules, all types of stuff. And it's always good if you want to do stuff is to like practice, you know, and stuff like this. This is just a cheap tablet. It's for kids basically because it's cheap enough and it's just going to get destroyed, so no point giving them something kind of decent at that age. And essentially what's happened is the charging point has got damaged. It will not charge. I can see internally it's completely destroyed, so I don't know if this will even go in. It goes in, but absolutely nothing. And I don't know if the camera's going to show that, maybe not, but it's just completely destroyed in there. And people are scared of kind of doing this type of soldering when it really is easy. You just need a couple of good things. It's like everything. You want to get good solder joints, well, you need good solder, good flux. You know, it really is. It's as simple as that. There's no point trying to use crap, shitty solder. It's not going to work. Multi-core leaded solder, you know, really good flux, and it will just flow. So I'll show you a few different soldering techniques. Also, the tip. Everyone thinks you need a really, really fine, small tip. You don't, because the small tip, which in some cases is known as like a PS3 tip, because it's really fine, you haven't got the thermal mass in the tip to actually melt the solder. I can solder ICs with this with this tip, sorry, multiple legs, and even though it's really, really big, so it's not the size of the tip that matters, it's how you use it. So we're going to crack this bad boy open, and it kind of looks like it's been opened before. I just don't know if it's been dropped because it is a kid's tablet at the end of the day. So let's see if we can actually get this open. Oh, it's always a worry when you're doing anything like this. Right, cover's off, and the charging point's on the opposite side of this board. Now we do have to be careful because we can see some very, very small resistors and stuff on the other end of that chip, so if we heat it up, we have to make sure we don't knock any of them off, because otherwise it won't work. And we've 4 soldering points we have to take off. So just let me undo this and easiest way normally, get a plastic thing, even though this is metal, but don't use a metal screwdriver like I'm using. Lift up the little tab and the ribbon cables just come off. So just lifting up that tab, pull the ribbon cables off. Little camera there, pull that off. We have the battery soldered in place, don't really have to mess with that. The antenna, and that's for speakers it looks like. And yeah, so just undo that. Do I have a small enough screwdriver with me? I don't think I do. Is this small enough? Nope. Nope. I can't be bothered to go downstairs. I'm gonna have to. Bagger. Okay, so I've now got them. Gonna be plenty small enough to do the job. There we go. Can you see? Is that it? What's stopping that now? See, I knew there had to be one. So 3 tiny Phillips, and then our board. Little microphone, is it? Comes off, and now we can see the charger we're dealing with. So essentially, it's got 4 ground pins, or 4 ground legs, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires at the back. Now, as you can see, they are very small. Just let me, got loads of them in here. Let me see which is the right one, and then I'll try and show you. That looks to be the right one. 5 legs. Or is that the right one? What I'm going to do is I'm just going to work out which is the right one, and then I'll zoom into that one. Right, I've managed to find the right one. I'll show you that in a second. What I want to do is just quickly desolder the antenna and the battery, just to move the board away slightly. Don't really need to, but it just kind of helps. So we're just going to, and the trick to desolder sometimes, believe it or not, is to actually add more solder. Now this was on the ground plane and the antenna, and this is just plus and minus for the battery, which they're marked on the actual board, so we can't go wrong with this. And there we go. Just move them out of the way. That just gives me a lot more room with the board. Now there's a couple of things we can do here. We've got the 5 little legs at the back, and we've got 4 legs going through the board. And this is the little fella right here. Now it is small, but don't worry about that. You can see the 4 little legs and the 5 legs at the back. You can just see them there now, look, right there. Now, a couple of things we can do. We can just get our soldering iron, put it on here and try and release it. That is a little bit awkward doing it that way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little, my hot air gun, which is just this fella here. I'm going to slightly change the thing on it. That should do. We don't need this small one on. So I'm going to put that connection on, slide it over the top. Now, it's where you do have to be careful. We don't want to put too much heat on it. We don't want to remove anything from the bottom, and we want to keep our heat just located there. And we've got some very sensitive kind of other things beside it. So, what I'm going to do, just move that. I need my plastic instrument, which I can't find at the minute. So we just, flux is our friend. So I'm just going to put loads of flux in and around the part we need to take off. We're going to turn this on. Set our airflow up. Get some tweezers. Now, always good to have some self-squeezing tweezers. So in other words, when I let go of these, they will actually hold whatever they've got in themselves. I don't have to put pressure on them. I'll just zoom you in a bit more so you can kind of see what's going on. A bit more airflow. It's just kind of experience that's going to tell me when to get this off. I think I am kind of blocking the camera a bit. There we go. How easy was that? No damage to the pads. I'm going to let that cool down. Best thing to do now is to let this cool down, because what could happen is all the other components next, you can actually see the tape is just slightly burned the tape, but that's not a problem. The components next to it are going to be hot, and possibly the solder is going to be melted on the components quite next to it, because they're all really next to it. So I'm going to let this board cool down, which will allow all the solder to cool down next to it. We're going to clean up all these pads, put fresh solder on, and get our new charger, which is here, a new charging point. And oh, you can't see, this is our new one here, and this is our old one here. So once that's cooled down, we will continue. Should have really moved this tape. I didn't see it, to be honest. Not it's the end of the world. We've done no damage, which is the most important thing. And if you're unsure, like I said, what I did is I put my tweezers on and just lifted up the board slightly after, I don't know, a minute or so, and it just kind of fell off. But be careful, if you do put something like tweezers on, you are going to start moving the heat to your tweezers, which will then mean you have to put it longer on the board. So just be careful, but don't be afraid of it, but just be careful. Right, what we've got to do now is we have 4 pads here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they should have holes in, because our charger has to go through the board. So we need to clean this up, and then we've got the 5 pads at the bottom. Now again, the easiest way to clean this up is we're going to have to get the solder out. So what we need to do is put a bit of flux on there. And we're going to actually add solder to it. And I know that sounds crazy, but we're going to add solder to them points first, and then we're going to get it off. And we're just going to more or less just spread it all over the place, because like I said, we need to add solder to these points just to make it easier for us to get the solder off. I would normally put my sucker on, because this soldering iron has a thing where you can suck all the smoke up, because it's not good for you. But if I turn it on, you're not going to be able to really hear what I'm saying. Right, now what I'm going to use is some solder wick, and solder wick is like a sponge, so we can put it on the solder points here and it will suck it up, and what we're looking for is a nice hole left behind, and sometimes it can take a little bit of working. You see it's just beginning to show the hole there now. Don't know if you can, the camera's going to show that. Yeah, kind of is. I can't get any closer because it just doesn't focus properly. But yeah, we're just going to suck this solder up. You can also use a bit more flux just to help us along. When it comes to stuff like this, flux is our friend. It will help everything. So we'll just get in there. Move across to the other ones now. How are we looking? Now we can see, I don't know if you can see, but that one, the first one we did, yeah, you can see on camera, look, that's a hole straight through, which is perfect. So all I'm going to do is, no point me showing you, just putting the solder wick on there, but I'm going to suck them 4 little holes, so they are holes essentially. And yeah, we've done no damage to the back, and we need them 4 little holes. That's my soldering pump on, and as you can hear, it's kind of noisy and annoying, so we'll turn it off. Now, I'll show you in a second, but we've got all the holes done. So what I'm going to do now is just want to clean the board with some alcohol. I got some of these alcohol wipes, they're really good. You can kind of squeeze it on there, give it a wipe, get all the flux that we've put on. Just kind of get it off for the minute, because I just want to get me hog's hair brush and should be done. Now, lovely. We've done no damage. Everything that was on is still on, which is the most important thing. Let me check. Got a bit of flux on there, but that doesn't matter. All them components are still on. All them components are still on, and hopefully, let's just get this board up there, and you can see if the camera's going to focus. Focus, please. There we go. Now you can see them holes there, 2 there and 2 at the back. There's the 5 little lines we need. So, next thing to do before you do anything is test fit your item. So we need to make sure our holes are big enough, because the front 2 holes are slotted and the rear 2 holes aren't. And as we can see, this item here, the front legs are a lot wider than the back legs. So we just need to put this on and make sure it's flush with the board. Oh, look at that. Absolutely perfect. Let's just show you that. There we go, flush with the board, and the 4 legs are sticking up. So, we have a couple of things we can do first. What I want to do is just tin these back legs. You know, they look to be tinned, but I just want to tin it a bit more. Now, this is the problem. You have to be careful, because I don't want to put solder inside the holes I've just cleaned out. And you know, it depends which way you want to do it, but whichever way you do it, if you put the solder on first and then clean out the holes, you could suck it off. So there's kind of problems with everything. So what I'm going to do, sure my tip is nice and clean. This tip actually has a hole in the middle, so I can actually leave a little ball inside it, and that can allow me to actually tin things, even though it's quite big. Put a bit more on. This tip is actually as big as 3 of these pads together. That's how big the tip is, and yet I still tinned all them 5 little connections perfectly. But I've just added a bit more solder on these pads, which I need to remove because it has to sit flush with the board. So we need to remove that. There we go, there's one. And you have to be careful with this solder wick, because it can get hot if you leave it on too long. And there we go. Now, if you are playing around with boards and stuff and you're worried about the heat, you're putting too much heat, just stop what you're doing and let them cool down for a few minutes and continue. You know, I mean, it's not really rocket science. It's easy to do. Because what does happen is, especially what you're doing, you can heat up the board too much and make other things move, which are kind of close to it, which is obviously you don't want to do. Right. So what I'm going to do now is we'll put this on. We'll turn it around. We'll do the 4 legs first. Now the only thing is, I know the charger port is destroyed, but we could also have an issue with the battery. I haven't checked that yet, but because it's really quite easy to do this, I'm just going to do this first. Now there's a few ways of doing this. What we can do is, if I find my board, it's typical, I had a board I made which holds the component down, and I can't find it because I haven't unpacked everything yet. I haven't got everything with me. I thought I had it, but I didn't. But anyway, we've just got something holding it up from there. I just want to solder these 4 little legs on first, just to hold it in place. We know it's completely, I'll see if I can kind of do this. The problem is when I zoom in and try and do it, it's just awkward because it's in the wrong place for me. Is that focused? Hopefully you can kind of see that. The problem is now it's completely in the wrong place for me. I can't really do it like that. I'll just have to do it this way because I can move it a lot closer to me and have it in exactly the right place. It's nice and flat. I've got plenty of flux on there. Again, I'm going to use the big soldering tip, which some people think is way too big, and that's why they get bad soldering joints, because they use the wrong tips. The right tips, the right solder, that's all it really is, people. Now I want this to go on and I want it to soak through, so we need to kind of hold it on, let the solder go through. That's nice and flat, that looks absolutely perfect. Same with this one. I'm just allowing the solder to basically wick through it. You leave it a few seconds, it kind of soaks in like a sponge, and you just keep filling it and filling it. Aha! Lovely. I'll show you this once I got it all done. The third one is going to be a nightmare because it is in the middle of a few things and I'm going to struggle, to be honest. I might have to do them from the other side, yeah, because that's kind of stuck up. It's not great, that. Well, I've managed to get that one done, but this one, I don't think I'm going to be able to get this one because I'm going to hit all the other components, but we'll try get something on this side anyway, and we'll just finish this one off from the top. Now we'll clean that and I'll show you it. That's what I was looking for, me wipe. We'll clean all the flux off here. It's like a job in the eye street. Now, can we see? Boom, look at that. You'd never know. And all our pins, all our pins are flat that side. We just need to solder them on now. And like everything, a couple of different ways. Stay there. We can use the heat gun again, but I'm not going to this time because we'll just heat up the actual pads that we've done there. Now you can actually see, that's absolutely beautiful. You can see what I mean about letting the solder come through. See the first pin there, look at that. That solder soaked all the way through, absolutely lovely. I'm just gonna touch up these two pins on this side first because they were close to components. So it's gone through, just not as much as the other one, but it's perfectly fine, I can assure you. What have I done with the solder? It's gone. What have I done with that? We'll flux it up. I need to find my plastic spatula. So at the minute, a fork will do. Now we need to make sure we don't touch the 5 little pins because that's what we don't want to do. I just want to have that. Aha, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. You just kind of hold it on, and you have to wait for everything to get to the same temperature. So you have to wait for the component and the pad to get to the same temperature. That's why it's important not to have a really small stupid tip, because it just won't be able to heat everything up properly. Or if it does, it'll take too long and it'll put way too much heat in the pad, because you have to leave it there for so long and the pad lifts. That's why a good soldering iron, good tip, not a stupid thin tip. I've loads of tips. This is a special tip for well, actually I'll show you that later, because I am going to be doing reballing videos showing how to do reballing BGA chips, and that's what that tip's for. But yeah, I have loads of tips, and the tips are very important. That's what makes a good solder joint, is using your tips. If I was using the PS3 tip, which I'll show you. These are some of my tips. That's the PS3 tip. Look how small that is. Absolutely useless. See the size difference in the tips? Look at that. Oh, I can't put my hand too close because I'll burn myself. Look at the size difference in the tips. You'll see that little ball in the middle of that tip as well. And what the little ball allows me to do, especially with these is I can, especially when you're doing ICs and stuff, you can actually drag the solder, because the ball inside keeps the solder and it kind of lays it on as you're going. They're a fantastic tip. That's my most used one. Then we've got chisel tips. Chisel tips are very good too. This is a chisel tip because it looks like a chisel. But again, I'll be doing loads of different videos on these, because when I'm repairing stuff, I'll be using different tips and I'll be explaining what each kind of tip does, depending on what you're doing. We could also have used the solder sucker on these, which is what this is, and another machine, and it sucks the solder out. So there's a few different ways of removing this, or removing things, but yeah, again, this is going to be bloody awkward too, because I haven't got anything there. I'll try and show you this. You'll see now from the legs. Oh, let me just get that in place like that, maybe. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. Now what we need to do is push them legs down. Them legs are attached to the pins. I can't show because my camera's just not going to zoom in, but the 5 little legs at the back, they are completely flat on the pads, and remember, we tin the pads first. So all we need to do is add some solder. And again, this is where people think you need a tip to go on each individual leg. No, you don't. The tip I'm using basically crosses 3 legs at one time. So I'm just going to shove some flux on there. Too much. We're going to clean our tip, and before I do this, what I'm also going to use is some tip tinner, which cleans the tip. Really good stuff, this. You see that, all that smoke coming off there now, you don't want to be breathing that in. If I was to turn my sucker on, as you can see, look at that, you don't get any of that. So we now cleaned our tip. I should really put the sponge back in the holder, which is right beside me. Now look how shiny that tip is. That's going to give us the best chance of soldering possible. So again, unfortunately, I just can't zoom in enough. You're going to get the idea. All I'm going to do is fill up my little hole in my soldering iron. And we're going to spread now this across. Just let me... Right. So what I'm going to do is, now we've got it actually on, I got my little soldering ball or divot filled with a little ball of solder essentially, and all I'm going to do is just swipe it across the pins, and we just need to make sure we don't cross them. Now I've crossed a couple there, but again, not to worry, we just keep dragging it across until we've got them all individually soldered. And I think that's bloody it. How quick and easy was that? Where's me wipe gone? Get me wipe. Scrub it in there. Make sure. It's a lot easier to see once the flux is gone, so I'm just going to clean it. And we'll have a bit of a goosey. Ah, look at that, people. Absolutely. Look at that. Can you see that? Perfect. And that's it. So they're all done. Easiest thing to do now is just to double check it. This actually is what a good use of the small tip. I'm going to go across each one of these little pins and I'm going to see if any of them move. Yeah, there we go. The last one moved. Now, always good to check that. So we've got 4 out of 5 of them done. So what I need to do is just clean this again and do the last one. To me now. What's happened there? Is that just some of that? Oh yeah. I thought there was a little bridge there, but there's no bridge. So we just need to get this on top of there and just push it down. Hopefully that's done. Let it cool down. Get me small fine tip. And just check them again. We've got 1, make sure there's no bridges, 2, 3, 4. No, we still haven't got that. We need to add a bit of solder there. Do we have a little bit of a bridge there? I think we have tiny bridge on 1 and 2. So again, add a bit of solder, get a bit of flux, we'll just go to pin 5 or pin 1, whichever way you want to look at it. Now we've crossed them now, but again, don't worry about it. Get a new wipe. I think now, don't burn myself with that. I think now we're golden. Looks good. I'm not getting in the way yet. No. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ha! Sorted. Now, I'm just going to clean all this away and we'll get to put the board back. Right, just show you this now. Hopefully you can see. Look at that. Absolutely perfect. See that? And that was done with a soldering tip that covers 3 of them pins at once. Now, I haven't actually checked the battery. Maybe the battery's damaged, I don't know. Maybe this won't charge. Again, I don't know. But I know this charger was damaged very badly. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put it all back together. And see if the bad boy charges. Now that's up. There's something here. So the battery flat. I hope it's not damaged as well. We'll see. Right, I'll worry about the antenna in a minute. That's not going to stop it from charging. Oh, take my soldering iron off. Now, moment of truth. Will it charge? Well, it goes in. Where's the on switch? It's not looking good, is it? Maybe just take a few minutes to... I don't know where the on switch is. Let me get the on switch. Is the third button, which is this one. Just get my multimeter out and see if it's taking any charge. Not looking good. Let's see if the battery is charging. Let's see if it's charging. 3.1 volts. No. Guessing we should be... Oh, it's going up. Oh, it is. It's charging. It's charging. It's just going to maybe take a while for it to kind of go up, but it's going up. It's charging. It's just maybe take a while for it to kind of go up because it's been like this for a long time. So we'll just leave that 10-15 minutes, see what happens. What I'm going to do in the meantime is I'll just solder this antenna on, just because then it's done. There's the ground and then there's the antenna there, so make sure I don't get them crossed. And yeah, we'll see. Right, my battery went too whiffy and I don't think I caught what I was saying, so I'm going to have to do it all over again. So what I did was I just wanted to check if it was charging. You can see the meter to what we was on before. I can't remember exactly. Look, we're over just under 3.5 volts now, so we know it's charging. I disconnect the charger, the battery goes down to just under 3 volts. So we definitely know it's charging, so we know what we've done is correct. We just don't know the state of the battery or anything. But at least, regardless whether we get this working or not, I might buy a battery for it, we'll see. But we know how to essentially put them on. That's what it was more so about than anything else. It wasn't really to see if we can get it working, even though, to be honest, I kind of think it should be working. I think it's been dead for about 6 months, I think. So yeah, the battery's going to be completely discharged, and obviously it's going to need to build its way up, trickle charging it a little bit before it, you know, maybe turns on. But we know it's charging. That's the most important thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the cover on. This is a little button here for the power on and off and the volume. Bang the cover on, then I can turn it around so nothing's going to really earth here, and we'll leave it and we'll see if it turns on. Sorted. Right, I know that kind of ending the video with it not working is a bit crap, but this was never supposed to be like a repair video. It was just really to show you how to put that in. The problem was it just got wedged and it got shorted. You can't really see, but inside there with your eyes anyway, that's the old one, it's completely shorted. And I thought to myself, you know what, it's a bit crappy not really getting it working. I kind of show you what I've done. This is not repaired properly by any stretch of the imagination, but watch this. Are you ready? When I plug the charger in now, are you ready? Boom! Now, what I noticed was when I was going back on the footage of the camera, that it looked like on the input side there was a blown part, and I didn't really take too much notice because, again, I wasn't really concentrating on... Move my microphone. I wasn't really concentrating on it. I just kind of wanted to show a video on how to repair it. So what I've done is I've put 100. I've got no SMD caps. So what I did, I put 100 microfarad 6.5 volt or 6.3 volt cap on it. I'm not sure if it's exactly the right one, but I'm going to have to monitor it. And it's not the right one anyway, because as you can see, look, it's not a surface mount cap. But as soon as I put that on, bang, it worked. So it was the closest one I've got to one that I think was going to work. So what I might do is I might do a bit of research and just seeing what sort of cap that should be. But this is working. So what I'm going to do is, I can't put it back together because it's lifting it off the board. As you can see, it won't fit down because it's the wrong cap. Do I have any caps? I don't think I have resistors, but I don't have any S&D caps. No, I don't. I just have resistors, so I'm going to have to get some caps. But what I'll quickly do is, let's just see if it actually turns on. It's charging and it's coming up on the screen, but let's see if it turns on. Like I said, I'm not really worried about it. It was more to show how to fit kind of chargers and stuff like that, because these chargers, you know, they're fitted to a lot of things, phones, well, anything really. There's loads of things that they're done to, and once you know how to do it on this, you can pretty much do it on anything. Right, this could go bang, and I've turned the camera on purpose to see if it will go bang. Hopefully, I'm not worried about it going bang, I'm more worried about the lithium cell battery. There we go. That's going to turn on. Will it turn on? Or will it go bang? Maybe it's not charged enough to actually turn on. I think it's just turned on. Ah! Yeah, baby. Now, get some SMD caps, I think. There we go. So it was blown on the input side. Shorted charger. Did that damage? Well, is it turning on? Boom. Boom, boom, and I say boom. Oh, it's even thinking my Wi-Fi. Battery's only on 2% though. Yeah, baby. So that's it. That's how to fit a charger. Yeah, it's gone dead. Has it? Oh no, it hasn't. I don't know the password. Does this touchscreen work? Oh, it is. Yeah, there we go. Heavens work. I don't know the password, so there we go. So look, people, that's it. That's how to fit a charger on it. We also repaired it. I need to get some S&D caps, and we can repair this properly. I need to do a bit of research on exactly which one, because I might not have the right one. But that's it. So look, hope it helps. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget, links up here, links down below. I've done that the wrong way, but you get what I mean. Most importantly, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one. Sorted. Anybody knows by any chance exactly what should be there? Let me know what value. Now the chances are when I put this up, I would already have found out. But you know, you never know.